Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. I'm very excited. Today is planting day. We're finally past all those cold nights. We had our last one actually last night where it dropped down to about 46 degrees Fahrenheit. But that was a kind of an anomaly because for the past several days it's been in the low to mid 50s most nights. But we got some rain and stuff, and so it cooled down for a bit. Anyway. But looking at the future forecast, even though I'm a few days early from Mother's Day to get planting, which is our normal kind of end frost date for us here, I think I'm looking pretty good to get things out into the garden. So I'm going to start transplanting stuff out today. My tomatoes, my peppers, my eggplant, my cotton. Beautiful day outside. It's like 73 degrees, no humidity. But yeah, planting day, getting everything out there. I don't know if I'll get all my seeds in today because I have squash and, you know, other of those kinds of things to plant. But at least I can get in my tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, and cucumber plants today. So before I actually start planting anything, I always do a layout of all my pots, kind of where I want the different varieties to go, how I want them lined up, and I'll lay the pots out before I start digging the holes. And then I'll start putting them in. Which is just simply digging a hole, putting some water in it, and then putting the you know, all the soil that's in the pot along with the plant into the hole, and tucking it in there and letting it grow. A lot of people will add other things, you know, like bone meal and crab shells, or, you know, depending on what you're planting, especially with tomatoes. I don't find it necessary to do any of those things. If you've got a good garden soil and add some compost, you should have all the nutrients that you need, not have to buy all those other additives. Those should only be necessary if you have a shortage somewhere in a nutrient or macronutrient, which is very rare in your general garden soils. But you know, you do what works for you. If you've always done it a certain way and it works, you know, keep doing that. I've tried different things over the years and found that I was just spending money I didn't need to spend, because I could grow a very nice plant with a good harvest without adding all that other stuff. Because I use a good 50-50 mix of topsoil and organic compost mix, and then also during the winter in my beds I'm adding rabbit poop and rabbit litter from our rabbit, and so there's plenty of things like nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, all the things that your plant needs is contained in all that. And so it has all those from the rabbit poop on top of the soil and compost mix that I already have in there. It has everything it needs. Just needs some water and some sun. So I'm gonna start putting in these. I've got, in this bed, I'm putting in banana peppers and paprika peppers. So I can make my own paprika this year, and pickle some banana peppers because we like having those with tacos. So I didn't grow any last year, and we were missing them because it's been a couple years since I've grown any. So this year I'm growing a lot, and hopefully I can get a lot of them pickled, you know, later this season. Got my good old homie tool. If you want to check these out, I got a video on these. I'll put a link below. Excellent garden tool to use. And once again, thanks to my friend Tom from South Korea that sent me some of these to use, but they're good, great ergonomic garden tools to use. So I'm just digging out some of this soil here, get this started, put some water in there, that'll soak in. We've had some rain here recently, so the soil's already pretty good. In fact, it's taking a little while to kind of sink in there, but it'll work its way down as I add more dirt. Put in your plant, cover it in, give it a little push to kind of, you know, firm it up, make sure it's strong enough, has enough support. And in time, as the plant grows, if it gets heavy with peppers, I've got some like bamboo stakes I'll stick in around it, but they don't need it right now. These plants came out, you know, pretty strong. They're not going anywhere. But if you've got a leggy plant, you can always add a couple of stakes or sticks around it, you know, whatever you have. at the time of planting, and then maybe use a little bit of twine or string or some plant clips and attach it to your stakes to help hold it and that would work for peppers and eggplants. For tomatoes, you're going to need more trellising, but for peppers and eggplants, not so much. A couple stakes will hold it. Some people use cages. I don't find cages very helpful anymore. You know, the produce tends to grow into the slats in the cage, and it makes it hard to pick or reach down around. So I find a couple of stakes or sticks will work much better than a cage. It will support the plant just enough, and then it's easier to work around. So also today I'll be planting some cucumbers. You can direct seed cucumbers. They will work just fine, but if you can give them a head start, that helps too. The one thing you have to be careful of when you give them a head start and transplant is cucumbers, as well as squash, loofahs, that kind of thing. They hate their roots being disturbed. And if you disturb them too much, they go into transplant shock pretty severely. I had 2 years ago where I kind of was a little bit more rough with them when I transplanted, and they all looked like death for about 2 weeks and before they finally did all recover. So that was a good thing, but it really kind of took away from giving them a head start because they had this big long recovery period that they wouldn't have had to go through if I had just done seeds. So if you start cucumbers inside, just be careful when you're transplanting, and you know, make sure that you're not, I mean, you're going to disturb the roots some, and they're going to go through a little bit of transplant shock, but the least amount that you can disturb those roots, like break them up or whatever, like don't rip into your base. Just try to gently get them in the ground there and cover them in. And I'll add water to although the ground's really damp over here, but I'll add water probably a little bit when I'm getting these all in. That one's actually a little far away from the trellis, but I think it'll be okay. I'll just kind of train it up that way. So with cucumbers, you can, you know, you don't have to use trellis. You could grow them on the ground. There's two issues with just growing them on the ground and not using trellis. One, it can kind of be difficult to find them. If they're growing up a trellis, they're they're hanging right there and you can see them and pick them. Whereas when they're growing along the ground, leaves kind of cover them up, they blend in with everything, and you find them later. So if you can get the bulk of your plant growing up on the trellis, makes it easier to pick. Also, it'll reduce your issues with rot, because if they're laying like on wet ground, a lot of times they can get some rot in them, and maybe you won't get as good of a harvest. So with growing with trellis, they get better airflow, also gives the leaves better airflow, can help reduce things like powdery mildew, and it'll just kind of keep your plant happier and healthier along the way. But you know, if you don't have trellis to use, then you know, you can certainly grow them on the ground successfully. You just might have a few more issues otherwise. But I use these cattle panel trellises. They work fantastic for everything that you want to trellis. They're so strong. They're just zip tied onto these T-stakes, and it's a more economical way, I find. You know, like this 8-foot section here, I think was like $16, and then a couple of T-stakes. You know, this might have cost me 25 bucks for a 8 foot long section by 4 feet high, and I'll put like 6 cucumber plants along here, and it does really well. So something to think about for your trellising. There's plenty of other ways that you can do it too that's probably even cheaper. I just found that these work well for me. And look here, I didn't even lay out the ones I want to plant, and I'm not even following my own instructions. So let's see how these are going to lay out. I'm going to take these ones that are farther along with the best true leaves on them. I've got a couple that are smaller, so I will save those to grow a little bit longer in pots before I either sell those or I don't know, plant them somewhere else if I can't sell them. So, but I'm also going to try to plant the rest of these a little bit closer to the trellis, just so they don't have to lean in so far to start wrapping themselves up there. This section here is, it gets shade. I mean, you see it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:30, and this part's already shady, but this section gets sun up until this time of day and then is, you know, mostly shady during the afternoon, although I will get some late afternoon sun, but it kind of gives the cucumbers a little bit of a break from that high heats in the summer, which they do better with. So if you get a, if you have an area that maybe isn't full direct sun all the time and maybe gets at least 6-7 hours of sun a day, you know, morning and late afternoon, kind of like here, they will do well as that. They can handle a little bit of shade for your cucumbers. Final thing I'll show you today is the tomatoes. I have some Cherokee purples here that I'm putting in. I'm also putting in some Dr. Weechee yellow, some beefsteak, and some cherry tomatoes as well. Random bean popping up here from last year. Tomatoes, a little bit different than your peppers and eggplant, and I've covered this in previous videos, but if you're new here, tomatoes, unlike peppers and eggplant, you can and probably will want to plant these fairly deep, because any place that your stem, see here, any place that your stem touches the soil, it's going to put off new roots and it will make the plant stronger as it grows. Plus a lot of times, like these are a little bit leggy from growing in the basement, and so they're not going to be able to hold up to like a breezy day as well. And so I want to make sure they've got enough strength to prop them up. So bury these deep. Same thing with like I'll put water in the hole, plant them down deep, drop them in there, and then also what I will do is take off these bottom sets of leaves, because you don't want the leaves touching the soil. That can give you more problems with picking up soil-borne funguses and that kind of thing that a lot of the heirloom plants are especially susceptible to. So I could probably even take off this one. We'll see how deep I get it. But so I've got a row set out here where I want to put them, but I'm going to dig this hole deeper. And actually for this example here, I'm not putting water in the hole just because the hose is up on the other side of the garden. I don't feel like dragging it down here. But the soil, because we had rain 2 days ago, is really damp, and I'll add a little bit more water later. We'll be okay. But generally I would add water into the hole while I'm doing this. And I actually, I don't like where this is sitting. So we're gonna do this a little bit further in and deeper. Good, nice far down in there. So it's got plenty of support. That's better. And I'll actually pinch off a couple more leaves. So this one will probably need a little bit more recovery, but you still want to make sure you leave plenty of leaves on top so it can get the photosynthesis going on. But it's okay to pinch off some stuff. Pack that dirt around there good. Now it's got plenty of support with all that dirt. It'll start putting off roots. And after a couple days of getting used to being in the ground, it'll start growing again, depending on how much transplant shock it goes through. But with this warmer weather that's coming in, we've got nights in the mid 50s and days in the mid 70s. That's perfect start weather for tomato plants. So there we go. All right. Okay, my good people. Day one of planting is all done. Got in 5 varieties of peppers: poblano, paprika, banana, Thai chili, and jalapeno. Oh, and green bell. So I guess 6 varieties. Did I say that already? Anyway. 4 varieties of tomatoes: Dr. Weechee yellow, Cherokee purple, beefsteak, and black strawberry cherry tomato. 2 varieties of eggplant: ping tung, which I think is a long, skinny, like Japanese eggplant, and some other one that I didn't mark and don't remember the name of, but it looks kind of like the Antigua. It's like the lavender and white striped kind, which are really good. At least I hope this variety is just as good as the Antigua. And then I got the cucumbers in and the cotton in. So tomorrow will be seeds, squash, cantaloupe. Let's see, for squash will be zucchini and yellow crooked neck and tramontino, Dixon cantaloupe. I got some seeds from my mom for those. The tramontino squash, cucamelons, and then I'll see what else I can fit in and around everything else. But this is my favorite time of year. I really enjoy getting all the plants in the ground and seeing everything start to grow. So whatever's going on in your neck of the woods, I hope that you are getting to the point where you can start planting things outside and that it is going fantastic for you and that you're having some good weather. But I appreciate that you stopped by and hung out with me again today for planting, and we will see you again soon. Have a great day. Namaste.